This conference will now be recorded.
Excellent. Good afternoon, everybody. I want to welcome and thank you for joining us for our third and last webinar that has been focused on advancing gender equality. As I just mentioned now, we're going to be recording this webinar, and a copy of the presentation will be available afterwards on our EHRC website. There is going to be a Q&A session after Jennifer's presentation for 10 to 15 minutes based on how much time is remaining after her presentation. And during the webinar today, we are going to ask you, like we did the last time, to participate in 4 polling questions. That was put into the meeting invite with the link to access the poll, which is pollev.com/EHRC-MARIE. So please make sure you have this link ready when we are getting to the polling questions in order that you can participate. So I just want to give you a quick introduction of myself. I am Marie Mold, and I'm the Manager of Stakeholder Engagement here at EHRC. We are delighted to do this today in partnership with Natural Resources Canada and to support the Equal by 30 campaign, which is timely this week with being Women's International Day on Friday. And with the Equal by 30 campaign, you'll hear a little bit more from Kim momentarily. And so I will welcome Kim now, Kim Shumsky, Senior Policy Advisor in the Environment and Energy Policy Division at NRCam.
Hi there, everybody.
Oh, I'm sorry, Kim. So the webinar feature speaker today is Jennifer Ladouceur. She's the president and co-founder of Women Leadership Nation. Some of you may have participated in our last webinar where Jennifer also did the presentation. But Jennifer's topic today is going to cover what gets measured, setting yourself up for success from the beginning, some information on systems and processes for tracking results, and finally celebrating wins and adjusting your strategy. I also want to mention that we are delighted to announce our partnership with Women Leadership Nation, and we're very excited on working with Jennifer and her team moving forward. So let's get started. For anyone new in the audience, Electricity Human Resources Canada is a national not-for-profit organization that addresses the human resource and labor market challenges within the Canadian electricity sector. Our vision is to build a highly skilled, safety-focused, and diverse Canadian electricity workforce for now and the future. But while Canada has a strong and diverse energy supply, unfortunately, the same cannot be said yet for our workforce. As in many technical sectors, women working in energy represent a much smaller component of the workforce than they should. And in many instances, they continue to face barriers that limit their advancement or indeed their desire to remain in the industry. We at EHRC have been working diligently over the last decade to support change, and the Leadership Accord was born out of that work. It provides a platform to create a culture of equality and inclusion throughout the workforce. It is a public commitment by employers, labor, and educational institutions to promote the values of diversity, equality, and inclusion and increase the representation of women, in particular in the skilled trades and non-traditional positions. We know that studies show that diverse teams in the workplace lead to greater innovation, a positive impact on an organization's bottom line, a slew of recruitment and retention benefits, and increased employee commitment. However, as you can see on this slide, the numbers tell a different story. There are 8.6 million women working in Canada, which make up about 48% of the Canadian workforce. But as you can see, only 25% of the workforce is in electricity, and less than 5% in the trades. It is clear that we have more work to do. So with that said, I would like to now hand it over to Kim Shumsky, who will introduce the Equal by 30 campaign. Over to you, Kim.
Thank you very much, and sorry for that delay. Sometimes it's so hard to find the on switch. Once again, I am Kim Shumsky. I am the campaign lead for Equal by 30 campaign, which is NRCan's international principles-based framework on moving the dial for women in clean energy. Many of you have heard from me before. Today, I wanted to take an opportunity first to sort of talk about how this campaign can provide an international platform for Canadian signatories of the Leadership Accord, and most especially in an event that is quickly coming, that is the Clean Energy Ministerial, which Vancouver will be hosting at the end of May. This international framework, Equal by 30, is the product of a collaboration between Sweden and Canada. It launched just 1 year ago, and we have been working really hard over this last year to sort of collect signatories from both public and private sector to sort of commit to action in the areas of equal pay, leadership, and opportunity. We've been making great progress, in part thanks to the collaboration that we have with EHRC. And on that point, I would just say that it was incredibly important to us to be able to preserve existing domestic frameworks exactly the way that they were, and to allow signatories to the Leadership Accord to come on to Equal by 30 without facing additional reporting burdens. So we've worked with EHRC to create a work-through that allows their signatories to report only to EHRC. We would consider that in full compliance with Equal by 30, and I think that the advantage is those organizations who are already doing great work on gender, have already committed to a domestic framework, get to enjoy some international profile by virtue of Equal by 30 and Canada's leadership on the gender file in an international space, a major federal priority for us going back several years now. My conversation today with you is going to be a little bit different because we are now in the end stages of planning for our major event. If your organization is thinking of coming on to Equal by 30, now would be the time. About 3 days ago, we issued our call for submissions. This will be the first ever Equal by 30 report, highlighting 10 to 15 signatories who really have a great story to tell. This is not about reporting. This is about signatories to the campaign, putting in their own words why this matters. What we'd like to do is put together a really great compendium of success stories, of personal insights, of quotes. Format has been left very open. The only requirement is 750 words by March 22nd, after which we'll pick the ones that tell the story the best and compile it into something that we'll be handing out at the Clean Energy Ministerial. So if you're on the fence, great reason to participate right now. We have a great sort of opportunity to present your best foot forward. The other thing I would want to talk about very quickly is a parallel exercise. This is also related to the international body of work that NRCan leads. It is the inaugural C3E Award of Distinction for both an individual and an organization. Application deadline is coming up. It's the 15th. This is a body of work. We've partnered again with a great Canadian organization, Women in Renewable Energy. They have proven excellence in delivering awards. I can tell you that we're very excited. We would love a Canadian to win this award. I encourage you to look into it, to nominate people that you know, to nominate your own organization. We would love to present the first awards to Canadian organizations in Vancouver on stage at a Women in Energy event. But it is open internationally, and so if you have networks or if you yourself are an international company, we encourage you equally to apply. What we want is a real great roster of candidates. The closing date for that is March 15th, so coming up very fast. Please have a look at the website. Please consider nominating somebody or yourself, and we look forward to sort of presenting that award in Vancouver. It'll be the first time ever that an international award is given under this framework. We're delighted to be setting a precedent and creating a program that will continue in future years. So that's all for me today. A tougher sell than the last two outings. I really encourage you all to take great notes in the coming discussion. These webinars have been wonderful for us to connect with you. Please feel free to connect with me. And thank you, Marie, for giving us this platform today.
Thank you very much, Kim. It's been a pleasure. Now it gives me great pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Jennifer Ladouceur, who's the president and co-founder of Women Leadership Nation, an organization committed to closing the gender gap and creating unified workplaces. Jennifer is a serial entrepreneur and has held senior leadership positions in the private, public, and government sectors, where she herself has faced many obstacles and challenges. Jennifer has dedicated the past 2 years to investigating why the gender gap is not closing and developing holistic solutions that help organizations attract, develop, engage, and retain women leaders by creating more unified workplaces. Welcome, Jennifer, and I am going to hand it over to you as soon as I can change the presenter screen. There we go.
Okay. Great, thank you so much. This is really exciting. I think the measurement, adjusting, celebrating is a really, really critical point in making progress and being successful. So I'm really excited about talking on this subject today for sure. Want to really provide, first of all, a high-level context as to where does measurement fit in a holistic solution. And I think that what we're finding based on the last few years of doing research and reading lots of studies is that lots of organizations are attempting to understand the gender gap, they're attempting to close it, but a lot of cases they're doing one-off solutions. They're doing a workshop, or they're trying to put band-aids on specific problems versus actually approaching the problem holistically, or the opportunity holistically, and really looking at the entire organization, and the fact that closing the gender gap is going to require that the initiative be recognized at the top senior level leadership side, and that it actually affects your overall corporate culture. So this illustration here just identifies 12 building blocks that we feel, based on all of our research, are required in solution for moving forward. And what's very interesting is that measurement and evaluation and celebration, that can't be an afterthought. It really needs to begin from the very beginning, and is something that is carried out and should be thought of at every single stage, every single building block here. So it's critical, and it makes it your life easier at the end of the day, when you've gone through a whole year of launching initiatives and new activities, to be able to capture that information. And I'll go through that. Measurement is particularly important in the awareness. So really building, so that would be building block number 2, is once you've had the senior leaders saying, yes, we're committed, we're excited, we want to do this. Step 2 is really understanding, where are you today? And creating that benchmark, setting the goals, number 3, and then obviously 12 is the formal assessment. We've identified a 4-phased approach to actually getting there: the discovery, the strategy, and launching and building phase, and then measurement. And again, like I said, I'll go through my presentation just what we need to be thinking about at every phase to make sure that you're set up for success. In the discovery phase, what you're doing is you're really looking from the beginning of what is it that you want to include in a benchmark in terms of where are you today. That could be everything from how many women do you have applying for your positions that you're posting, how many women are making it into the first level and then making it to manager, maybe director, senior leadership, how many women do you have on the board. What you benchmark is really going to be what you measure. So having that in mind is really, really important, because at the end of the year, when you're looking at, or every 6 months, or however frequently you decide to do your measurement, you're going to want to make sure that you've established a benchmark so that you can see if progress is being made. When you're determining what you want to benchmark and what you want to measure, it's also really important to think of the business case. So you might have, let's be realistic, everybody knows that this is a good thing, this is the right thing to do. closing the gender gap. But you have those individuals that under pressure, may not be as committed, and you want to make sure that you're building that financial business case as well, because there's a lot of research that shows that organizations that are innovative and that are profitable actually have an increased level of diversity. So what are those measurements that you could be in those benchmarks that you want to be setting at the beginning that can actually connect and align to building a business case and showing at the end of the year that you've not only progressed in closing the gender gap, but you also have increased profitability, you've increased employee engagement, you've increased levels of communication, maybe you've also increased your public profile, which also had a direct impact and can be linked to increased client attraction and retention. So those are some of the things you want to think about from the very beginning. You want to be able to uncover new opportunities as well, and also find, what is it that you're already measuring that could also be linked to and find linkages to the gender gap and diversity. You want to be open to new ideas and new approaches to not just what you measure, but also how you capture that information. And this is where your employees, and I know based on experience in many organizations, as soon as you say we're going to be tracking more information, they get a bit of a sigh, or they think it to themselves that, oh my gosh, I'm busy enough. I don't need to be tracking anything new. And so you want to be able to incorporate their involvement and their feedback as to what they should be tracking, so that it feels like it's coming from them, and it is, but also feedback and advice as to how can you incorporate the tracking into everyday life, so that it's not all encompassing at the end of the year of, oh my gosh, what did we do, and not considered a big chore, that it's actually been tracked. And I'll go into a little more detail about that. And also you want to consider tracking unity skills. Now, there's certain things that are always hard to measure, and those, the soft skills. And so, there's some opportunities, and I will go into it a little bit more, but of what is your vision? What's your mission? What are the key words and key insights as to how you want to define what unity looks like for you in your organization? And one example might be unity is, as a skill, is empathy. So an organization that is unified and diverse is very empathetic. And so breaking and looking at what is that behavior, and how do we track that, and can some of these metrics also be included in performance reviews, so that we're also tracking it at that level. And again, for organizations that are just getting into it, you don't want it to be too cumbersome. Even if you're tracking less in the beginning and you increase it later, that's always a good thing as well. So we have our first survey question getting started. And the question is, what percentage of your organization's senior managers do you think could give a specific example of a gender equality business benefit relevant to their work? And we have the live results. If everybody can log in and answer if it's 75% more, about 50% more, about 25%, or hardly any, we'll be able to see the live results coming in. Do you see from your side?
I'll have to check just a second. So it's not happening live there. Okay. Just let me.
maybe we could play with that, and then do you want me to come back to these questions?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, sure.
Okay. Um, okay. So the other section is measurement and recognition. So again, this is what we're going to be really getting into, is what gets measured gets managed. And that's a common phrase, and it's very true. It, you know, to be successful, you need to have the senior leaders committed, and you need to know that people, your feet are going to be held to the fire to actually produce and to move initiatives forward. So, you know, what you choose to measure should be linked to your vision, your unity strategy, your goals and objectives.
Happening on my screen.
Really unlock so that you're able to unlock some of the success stories that are coming from your organization. So what should be measured? It's very important, like I said, to set up the metrics right from the very beginning. You don't want to list too many and make it too difficult to track. You don't want it to become something that's really cumbersome from the beginning. You also don't want too few. If you have too few metrics, you're not able to really analyze were we successful, and where do we need to make changes. You want to involve the key stakeholders in determining what's really important for your progress. I suggest maybe even have a couple of focus groups or workshops internally where you're listing out and coming up with ideas of, first of all, what are you already measuring that won't require any additional work that could be linked to this? And then what is it that you should be measuring that going forward? You want to gain insight and ideas from all levels across the entire organization. From every level, even from and every committee, every department as well. I think that by having that, you're able to engage them, and they see that their role and they see their importance, and it's incredible. Everybody has a different perspective and different experience, and to be able to pull that, and you really do get to see the full culture. You get to be able to really understand the organization. And the other thing is not to put too much pressure. I think what's incredible about EHRC's Accord is that you're measuring yourself against yourself. And so I think that's a really great consideration, especially if you're just getting started, that senior managers senior leaders may be a little hesitant to, if they know they have to measure against, say, their competitors or other organizations, and this is just something that they're getting started with. It might be overwhelming. Measure it against yourself and really look at what can you achieve, especially if you're getting started. 3 major things in a year, and start to gain progress from there. Some of the things that individuals might want to measure, and certainly you can get a lot of ideas from the Accord and the incredible package that the review process that they've put together. But some of them might be as simple as, what are the new initiatives? How many new mentorship connections have we made across the organization? Have you won any awards? Are there more women applying for positions? So it really depends on what's important to you. By signing the EHRC Accord, you gain access to a guided review process, a self-assessment tool. The Accord prompts organizations to implement strategic human resource policies and plans focused on recognition and validation of the personal skills of individuals, regardless of gender. The review also allows organizations to identify the people, resources needed to move forward with each priority. So that's really important. I mean, you could set all sorts of goals, but really not at the end of the day. You know it will be difficult to gain the access and resources for those, and that's not helpful. You want to be able to show success from the beginning, which will also, for the previous years, hopefully allow you to access more resources to help you to continue to grow. Organizations may use these tools differently depending on the time and resources available to conduct the assessment. And what they've done a great job doing is really breaking it down into 3 key areas of policy and governance practices, education and workplace readiness, and recruitment and retention practices. So again, if you're this is something that's new to you, it really provides you with a great framework. So we do have another. Marie, would you like me to try this one?
Yeah, I'm. From what I understand, they were able to see it on the screen. Do you want to just go back to the first one and see if we see the results? Because I did lock the. There we go.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
For the
So
first one, wow. Let's see, it's 50%, 70% or more, so that's great.
So I think if you go to the next one, it should be okay.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so this next survey question is, does your organization regularly measure its progress on gender diversity? So this will be really interesting. So yes, and results are widely communicated. Yes, but communication is very limited. Maybe, but I never hear about it. And no, it's not on the radar. So if you want to put in your opinion here. This survey question is excellent because it really brings up the point of communication. If you do it and nobody hears about it, it's almost like you didn't do it. So, oh, that's very interesting. So it looks like communication is definitely required, more communication. Well, that's an interesting split.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Are you able to lock the results for me?
Don't see where it
No?
says.
Okay, I'll do it.
Okay. Okay. So in terms of scoring, so once you've established, and again, this is guidelines from the review process, but how EHRC does it is that they allow you to, again, compare against yourself in terms of the progress that you've made. And they really simplified the scoring scale. Again, if you already have a strategic plan in place at your organization, you may want to, I think closing the gender gap should be included in that, and that, your scoring might be completely different and aligned with your strategy, however it's created. But this is really clear and simple and a great place to start. It's number 0 is no action is taken, and that's not a bad thing to get a 0 to begin with, because that means it's something that you really need to do and you could show some results in. Commitment, so the entry level, the organizations that have recently started the progress. Achievement, excellence, and not applicable. So this is really a very simplified approach. And again, the amount of measurement that you do in terms of timing is completely up to you and the organization. I suggest that if there's things that you're already reporting on, that you align it with that. So, and I also believe that the one thing that you should be doing is reporting consistently. So in terms of, if you have, for example, departments have monthly manager meetings, make that a standing item of discussion that is always on there, so that each month you're actually reporting on, and you don't forget certain things that have happened, and you keep a running total, so that at the end of a 6-month or a 1-year period, you're able to recall everything that's happened. Some of the examples of the metrics pulled from EHRC is commitment to ongoing improvement in the workplace policies, practices, operating procedures. Another one is our organizations help to develop women's resilience to thrive within the sector or workplace initiatives, or our organization works to promote occupations in a way that attracts more women. But, it's a great starting point, and then you can think of and create any other metrics that you feel make sense. This is an example of some of the unity skills. These are the 12 that we at Women Leadership Nation came up with that we were able to attach habits and behaviors to. But you can create your own. And you can really tie it to how do you want and how do you feel that your organization should behave in, or what habits make sense in terms of driving the organization further toward becoming unified. So, in your decision making, for example, if you're around the table and you recognize that it's not as diverse as you'd like, well, are you coming to the right decision? Are there certain committees and initiatives in your organization that aren't as diversified, and diversified in terms of women, but also diversified in types of experience and thought processes, and organizations really can become a lot more innovative by being able to pull all of those components. So tracking systems and processes, again, you don't want it to feel like it's too cumbersome, and I think there's some ways of being able to do that by really strategizing from the very beginning. First of all, you need to prioritize what you're going to be reporting and maintain consistency throughout. So really going to, again, what is it you're already tracking that actually can be completely aligned, and maybe just adding a couple components to it, or are there certain things that are absolute priority, and you can maybe drop a few others. Again, you don't want it to be too overwhelming. The ongoing tracking, I talked about that, but creating habits and opportunities to, like I said, in the managers meeting, for example, sorry about that. The managers meeting, for example, having a standing item where you are always prompted to remember what happened, and you can write that down. Having technology, and I use that as the last one, but really using technology to be able to track it. So it can be as simple as having an Excel file or a Word document that is created with a month, and so something happens, for example, you win an award, or that there's a major breakthrough that because there was diversity of thought, that you were able to come up with a new solution where before there was more conflict and you weren't making progress. That's just one example. Maybe you were able to hire more women, or maybe you were able to promote and create new opportunities. So you're tracking all of that as you go, and I think it makes it a lot easier. There's some technology that can help you. You might already have technology in place that creates that tracks your results for your overall strategy, so I would look to that as well. One technology that I've used before is called Clear Point Strategy, and it really helps you create balanced scorecards, and it's a tracking system. But being very honest, it's you can really just create your own templates to start with and have that shared. Assessing the culture, learning to recognize and record some of the anecdotal activities that are, that are happening. I think that's really important as well. And think by having it top of mind regularly, where you know at the end of each month you have to submit, just the preliminary findings of or things that are happening is really important. You could maybe one example of that might be that we found that there's certain individuals in the organization that perhaps were kept to themselves a little bit more, but they felt more comfortable to open up and to talk and to discuss and to come up with share ideas and that type of thing. So that might be one, or that you were able to form new partnerships across the organization and also maybe with some of your suppliers and other partners. Storytelling is really important, and starting to think of some case studies as to how you were able to maybe even get, a lot of organizations have silos in their departments, and because of this initiative, you were able to get departments speaking more to one another. That could be one example. And making connections and linkages with an open mind. And what I mean by that is that these initiatives that you're putting in place to close the gender gap might actually have even broader opportunities and connections where you were able to, again, come up with completely new ideas for maybe a problem that you've been facing in terms of a product or an opportunity. Trying to stretch and make those connections throughout the year is going to be really, really important to you. So we have another survey question. So this one looks at the overall on advancing gender equality. How does your organization, industry, or profession compare to 5 years ago? So have we made good progress, slow and steady progress, no progress that I can see, backsliding? I don't know. Nobody talks about it. So if you want to provide your feedback on that. We're starting to see some. There we go. Slow and steady. Well, at least there's progress being made. That's good. Well, that's a good sign. Good progress and slow and steady, and I think that's excellent. This is not a quick fix. It's excellent to see 30% is making great progress. I mean, the fact that you're on the call, I think that's progress there too. It shows that it's top of mind, which is really important. That's great. So what we really want to do is unlock the potential in the organization and your employees and everybody connected to it. So, when you're reviewing the results, it should not look upon as another chore or that it's, oh my gosh, I'm going to be, I hope they're good because we're going to be, under fire if they're not. It's reviewing the results is really provides huge opportunities for growth. So you want to make sure that it's, first of all, supported by senior leaders, that they feel that it's important enough that, in fact, you stay on time and commit to reporting. And again, one of the tactics for that is aligning and making sure that you're aligned with when you report on your overall corporate strategy, because this really needs to be incorporated within it. You really need to take a look at your overall corporate strategy that already exists and see where you can fit this into it. You want to make sure that even if you're just getting started, that it's not seen as you didn't make enough progress. Any progress is really great. You want to be able to have courageous conversations around it as well, as in terms of, creating a safe environment where you can really speak openly and honestly about the period of time that's just passed. So, it could be that, yes, we had great intentions. We wanted to launch this initiative, but we were actually surprised that it wasn't embraced as well as it should be, or that being honest about what worked and what didn't work, and being able to really deal with the current situation will actually move you forward. There's opportunities to learn and grow from the successes that you've achieved, and also from the failures. So, certain things that weren't embraced as much might be just because of timing. It might have been that you launched an initiative, but there's, it was at a time when, say, for example, I'm looking at the accounting profession right now, and working with them, and they're coming up to their silly season, as they call it, and so they're just overwhelmed with work. So now's not the time necessarily to be really focusing in on certain new initiatives, but maybe there's a better time, or maybe there's different approaches and new tools and techniques for being able to implement things. So being very honest and open, and like in innovation, you actually learn as much from your failures as you do as your successes. So being able to embrace that, and being able to, again, listen to everyone across the organization is really important at all levels. Creating that, because everyone equally has valuable insight into the organization. Celebrating your successes. I think you need to celebrate the big ones as much as you celebrate the little wins as well, because each win is going to move you forward, and you really need to, there's typically in organizations, there's typically a group of individuals that are always involved, and always come up with ideas, and really challenging yourself to look at new individuals and new groups of people that maybe you don't hear from as frequently, and encouraging them to be engaged, and encouraging them to share some of their small wins, and allowing them and encouraging them to see from their perspective how what they do helps close the gender gap and create a more unified workplace overall. Again, across all levels of the organization. In terms of financial and resources to be able to take on new initiatives, why not leverage existing events or existing initiatives to be able to celebrate successes? So if there's already something that you do regularly, annually, that is already existing, it might be an all-staff town hall that always happens, or it might be an activity, maybe a fundraising activity that you do in the summer. Aligning it with something that already exists will reduce your costs, but also increase the awareness. So you're able to leverage that event and be able to announce certain results, and that you're deeply committed, and just always making it top of mind and constantly communicating, as well as communicating successes over social media and intranets for those that have one, as well as postings for those that don't necessarily, they're individuals that work maybe outside and don't have access to computers as much as those working in the office all the time. Being able to send out postcards of quick wins, and getting them excited about it, and making sure that they're receiving communication as well. You need to really step into the shoes of your employees and understand from all the different perspectives how best to communicate with them, and so that they're really getting the message. You need to be able to adjust your strategy as well. Again, that means learning from the failures and the challenges, you need to be completely open to changing your strategy. It's a living document, and just like with your corporate strategy, and you need to be able to assess. There might be situations that are happening that are beyond your control that will influence certain things. So you need to be able to modify and adjust it as you go. And that's again why it's so important that you choose the right things to measure so that you're able to have the right knowledge and insight to be able to make adjustments and understand how you need to be adjusting it. Assessing new opportunities as well that come up based on some of the initiatives that might create new strategies that you're going to really focus in on. And also continuously learning from best practices. And those best practices don't necessarily have to be just from the electricity industry, your specific industry. You can actually also go to completely different industries. This is where the diversity of thought is incredible. And you could say, wow, this industry is they've tried this approach, and what would that look like for our industry? How could we apply that? Because it looks like they're getting a lot of success from it, and encouraging the sharing of best practices, which is excellent. In terms of best practices that we've been able to get from EHRC, some of the things that they're seeing, which is incredible in the electricity industry, is a few ones. One is starting with attracting women actively through public panel presentations or forums to speak to the breadth of the careers available for women. As well as engaging with organizations, colleges, universities to promote women in technology. So that's a huge one, and making sure you're getting that pipeline. So they're seeing a lot of results in delivering that strategy. Considering the diversity of the interview panels, and I was speaking with an organization in Calgary last week. And one of the things that they've done that's made a big difference is also looking at the job descriptions and how do you write the job descriptions so that you're attracting the best candidate possible. And are there ways of writing them so that you're not excluding certain individuals from wanting to apply. At the end of the day, you have to look at what are the specific skills, so it can be as simple as that, and they're seeing some results in that as well. Ensuring at least one female interviewer is on all educational program intake panels, as well as striving to ensure at least 2 qualified women are shortlisted for each position, and promoting diverse leadership teams, having women make up 10% to 30% of the organization's board of directors and senior leadership teams, and providing female staff with development opportunities. So that's sponsorships or mentorships, and sharing success stories. And video is also a great mechanism for doing that. And I think that organizations are seeing results with that as well. It's, especially with social media, people are less likely to read lots of copy, but they can quickly feel the emotion and get energized by watching a short video and really feel proud of the organization they work in when they see these success stories. Maintaining momentum, it's easy to get started in many cases, and it's easy to get people really excited the first, something new and shiny, but maintaining that momentum can be challenging. And so you need to think about that from the beginning and really start to come up with some strategies for maintaining that. And again, being able to share some of the successes regularly at a monthly level, for example, or communicating that, or relaunching certain things that maybe you already had a mentorship program in place, but now that you're doing this major initiative, relaunching it and raising attention is really important to ensuring that individuals maintain enthusiasm and excitement for the initiative. And again, piggybacking off of existing events and making sure that you're talking about it every opportunity that you have. Employees realize that this isn't just a phase that is actually going to be ongoing, deeply entrenched in your organization. In a world that's so reliant on technology, I think nothing beats face-to-face meetings and networking. I feel that organizations that are going to be successful in creating increased collaboration is that you need to have more of that one-on-one face-to-face interactions. And I think in terms of developing your strategy, you need to be able to include that. And I feel that also organizations will identify some quick wins and some successes easier by having a conversation. If it was, for example, just an email that was sent to say these things happened and here's our successes, versus having a conversation and maybe exploring while you're talking, you're triggered. It triggers your mind that, oh, that's right, yeah, this happened, and I think it might be connected. So you need to be able to encourage more of that relationship building and having the one-on-one conversations throughout it. So I just wanted to mention one more time that really, especially if you haven't gotten started, really signing the accord and using their amazing framework to really getting started and tracking, and again, assessing yourself against yourself is an incredible way to get started and to be able to measure your progress. So we have our final question. And some people have already added in, which is amazing. So was one word that describes your reaction when you hear about a step forward for gender diversity anywhere? So it's awesome. That is awesome.
I love that they jumped ahead and started answering the poll.
That's amazing. Enthusiastic, that's great. So this is great. I mean, it's amazing to see that this is not going away, and particularly as people see the value that it has to businesses in terms of their growth, sustainability, competitive advantage. This is really, really important. So it's amazing to see that. Excellent. So that was that's a high-level overview of what I feel in terms of the measurement and adjustment. I believe that, again, I guess I would end on just saying that it's really important that, again, that you think about this from the beginning. It's always harder to do it after the fact. And the previous years, take a look at what's worked for you in terms of measurement, and don't be afraid of making adjustments to it as well, because the last thing you want is organizations to feel like it's a chore, and too much of a chore that they don't end up tracking. And we need to associate it with value and try and make it as seamless as possible.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jennifer. I'm actually now going to bring up our presentation here and bring it right over to, let me see, the Q&A. All right. What I really liked about your presentation today was obviously, data can reveal so much information. So I thought the fact that you said that it should not be an afterthought, and the fact that it should be included in every step of the process. So I really, really did enjoy that. So thank you for that. And what I want to do now is open it up to questions. So you can either send your question over the chat line, or if you want to get on the speaker, please go right ahead. Okay, I don't see any questions coming in right away. Kim, did you have any questions to start it off?
You know, one of the things I just wanted to highlight is just how valuable Jennifer's point was on failure, and how failure can really be one of the most important learning tools. And certainly, you know, when I think about what our experience with stakeholders looking to sign on, I would understand if there was some fear attached to having to put down what the objectives are without any assurance that you're going to achieve them. So we just want to build on that and observe that we're into failure. We're into the reasons it doesn't work as much as we are into the ones for the reasons that it does. And I think there's still a tremendous opportunity to use those setbacks as an opportunity to shift and to retool and recalibrate. So thank you, Jennifer, for a point well made. And I know that's not a question, and so it's not helpful for this particular point. But that's one thing that really stood out for me in the last 20 minutes.
Okay, well, in respecting the time, I'm just going to finish it up for today. So if you wanted to learn more about our leadership accord or anything to do with electricity HR, you can go to our website at electricityhr.ca, and as well the Equal by 30, which is at equalby30.org. Kim, did you want to say any lasting thoughts before I finish up?
Only that we're so grateful for our partnership with EHRC. I echo everything that Jennifer has said. It's a wonderful template and program to work through as an organization if you are at square one. I think it speaks very well for a real desire within Canada, within electricity, to be leaders on this front. We do have room to grow. There is lots of progress to be made. It is, to our view, as a federal government, part of our job to keep momentum going. It is something that we want to keep coming back to over and over again until such point as we don't have to come back to it anymore. So you guys have been leaders in that space, and we're grateful to be your partners.
Okay, thank you. So I want to say thank you to Kim and to Jennifer today, and to everybody that participated. I hope that you found this to be a valuable session today. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us directly. And with that said, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you, everybody.